in the repair shop today. When Richard fixes binoculars used at Loch Ness,
Close-up lens.
tiny parts create a monster challenge.
That's the sort of size that I'm working with.
And its emergency treatment
I think it's rather appropriate that I'm using a scalpel.
as Suzie restores a case that helped a female doctor blaze a trail in the 1930s.
I can only imagine what Belinda went through in her life being a surgeon all those years ago.
But first to arrive at the barn are sisters Sue and Kath Coffey from Reading, wheeling along a childhood favourite that's in desperate need of the expert tinkering of vintage bike restorer Tim Gunn.
Hi, I'm Jay.
Hello, I'm Sue.
Sue?
Kath.
All right, Kath.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hello.
Tim.
Hi,
Hello.
hi, Tim. Hi.
So obviously it's a bike. Tell us a bit about it, please.
It's a family bike. Sounds a bit odd, but we all learnt to have adventures on this together.
Okay.
It's made by Moulton. It's part of our growing up because we lived a very mobile life. Our dad's work took him to different countries all around the world. And
What job was your dad doing then?
He used to work for the British Council,
Okay.
which promotes English language and culture.
Okay. In different countries
In
then?
different countries.
Right.
And I remember this bike really in Kuching in Southeast Asia, in Borneo.
Okay, right.
I just remember my mum riding it, and she used to give us rides on it.
They were unusual parents. They showed us anything is possible.
Yeah.
Be confident in yourself. They showed us different cultures, different experiences of life, and it's sort of looking at this slightly old, slightly damaged bike.
Yeah.
It takes me down memory lane and some really wonderful memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it in your eyes.
There's a lot of love in that, isn't there?
There is,
Yeah.
there is. Because we moved around so often, we couldn't take a lot of things with us.
Right.
But this bike and a few other things were the sort of thread that carried us through that.
Yeah.
So you'd turn up in another place and it's like, oh, there's a bike.
Yeah.
If I go, you know?
Yeah.
It must have given you a lot of freedom as well.
It
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many countries did you live in then?
We were born in Kenya, and then we went from there to South India.
Okay.
We then went to Central Africa, to Zambia, and then we went to live in Singapore, and then I think that was it.
Manchester?
Oh yeah, we lived in Manchester for a short time, which was just as fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was fun because it was another experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys had a brilliant childhood.
Oh, it's great. We've actually had loads of adventures on this. I can actually remember discovering that this bike could bounce
Really?
Pogo champion.
Pogo champion. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
a long time ago.
All right.
They're quite springy on the front, but basically they're the forerunner of the modern suspension bike. Alex Moulton is better known for designing the suspension unit on the first Mini.
On a mini car?
On the Mini car, yeah.
Wow. So this is an important bike?
It's an important bike, yeah. It's quite an important design statement in the bicycle industry.
So what would you like us to do to it?
Well, I like the fact that it's been in lots of places and it's got a bit of age.
Okay.
So really, a sort of sympathetic restoration would be great.
Okay.
I remember it had lights. Certainly some things are just completely ruined. So I'd just love to be able to carry on riding it.
Tim, what do you reckon? Can we operate?
It's going to be a challenge. Certainly try.
Give it a go, yeah?
Because underneath what appears to be quite a lot of dust and rust and things, there's a bicycle waiting to come out. So-
Okay.
Great.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing it in.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet
Soon
you.
as
Thank
Tim's
you.
done his bit,
Thank you.
we'll be back in contact.
Thank
Take
you.
care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The bike was an important part of our childhood.
And I'm hoping that when we next see it, it'll be...
A working bike.
Yeah, that I'll be able to ride it.
Wow. Now that's a bike, isn't it? Hey? It's got some history.
It's got
And the design is just beautiful.
Yeah, I think aesthetically it's grubby, it's dirty, it just wants a good clean.
Okay.
The thing that's really worrying me is that hub at the back there. I'm concerned about that. So before I dismantle it, I want to just see if I can get that to work properly.
And then the frame?
The frame, just going to clean it. It's lost a bit of paintwork here and there, but actually it's part of its life. It's been around the world, so...
It has, actually. But for now, it sounds like you've got to get this on your bench to check if that's working.
Yep. Should we get going?
Let's do it. You got the front?
Yep. I'm actually really excited about working on this. This is quite a technical hub. I'm really, really hoping that that hub works properly. The first things first, it's moving. Apply the brake. Yeah, brake works well. That appears to be second gear. If I kick back now, that's first gear. That's really, really good because basically both gears work, the brake works, and that's such a relief. That's just one hurdle. The rest of the bike is in a bit of a state. So the next thing is to dismantle it. I've just got to slowly work my way through it. Manage to undo the pedal. Oh, that one comes off. That's a good sign because they normally are stuck hard inside the cranks. So that one's the first one to come off. There's so many memories tied up in this bike, and it's just such a nice thing to be able to work on it after you've heard the story. It's going to be so rewarding.
Next, Clare Jackman from Pulborough.
Hello.
She's hoping leather expert Suzie Fletcher can bring a precious family heirloom back from the brink.
You've got a lovely case here.
Well, not so lovely, sadly, anymore. It's falling to bits by the day.
Who does it belong to?
It belonged to my great-aunt Belinda, who died in 1953. My grandmother was her younger sister.
OK.
They were two rather exceptional women because their parents died when they were both quite young. Certainly my grandmother was 14, great-aunt was 17, so I think my great-aunt looked after my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Then they both went on to go to Queen's University in Belfast in the 20s and studied science, which is extraordinary for women in the 1920s.
Wow.
My great-aunt and my grandmother were probably trailblazers for their time. Great-aunt Belinda went on to be a surgeon, no less, in Edinburgh.
Good heavens.
And she got her fellowship in 1931. The absolute creme de la creme, apparently, of academic
Amazing.
excellence and excellence of practice. So to have achieved that as a woman, we're just immensely proud of her.
I'm just thinking of those times when women were sort of expected to not go into professions, right?
Exactly. And her obituary was beautiful. It said her patients loved her, and not only did she achieve all these amazing things, but also she was obviously a very lovely person.
Wow. Did she have a family herself?
No, the sort of line ends. I think that's the
Yeah.
other thing, really. And I feel responsible for keeping this story of remarkable women alive.
Oh, definitely.
This is really how I know her, which is why it's so special to me.
And what is your earliest memory of this case?
Going to art school with it when I was 19, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Because I used to keep all my brushes on the top,
Nice.
all my paints on the bottom.
Yes.
And I had it in a cupboard after I left art school, and it got water damaged, and I just didn't even realise. So I was mortified when I saw it, because we think it's her medical case. That's what my father told me. 'Cause
Okay.
he gave it to me.
So has anyone else gone into the medical profession?
Yes. My grandfather was a doctor, my mother is a doctor, my brother is a doctor, and now my niece
Good
is
heavens.
a doctor.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
that is where I'm hoping it's going to go, is to my niece, so that she
Right.
can keep it and treasure it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cracker to work on. I'm really looking forward to working on it.
thank you
Thanks,
so
Claire.
much.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Coming from a family of 4 generations of doctors, the case is very important to me and my family. And it's about continuing that story on so that future generations can realise the extraordinary things she achieved as well.
After centuries of being barred, women began to be admitted into the medical profession at the end of the 19th century. But the first female fellow to enter the Royal College of Surgeons wasn't until 1911, so to be a female surgeon during the 1930s was a real achievement, and this case represents Belinda Nesbitt's drive and dedication.
This is a really well-made case, but it has an incredible amount of damage. These cases are made of like a fiberboard that then is wrapped with leather. It's not solid leather. The water has penetrated right the way through the case to the underside. You think of cardboard, it's very absorbent, and as it dries, it'll start to distort. It's actually warped the top of the case tremendously. The first thing I want to do, which has been absolutely driving me nuts, is this whole side section here is just about to come off. So I just need to remove this, and then I can start adding the saddle soap on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the glycerin saddle soap. I want to actually put moisture back into this case so that then I can start to flatten and hopefully reshape all of this fiberboard. I really love working on cases. I don't know what it is about them, but it's bringing back memories of the first case I had, so similar to this, and it actually belonged to my grandfather. But in my early days of becoming a saddler, I used to keep all my tools in it. So it's just, it does make me think about all of those days many, many, many years ago.
In the outdoor workshop, Tim's been carefully breaking down all the parts of the globe-trotting 1960s bicycle, ready to tackle the decaying frame.
Now that the bike is now completely disassembled, I've got everything off of it. The paintwork is not great. It's got quite a lot of rusty bits on it. I'm just using a colour restorer, just very lightly, so as I don't take off too much paint. It's coming up like a sort of a 60s candy floss type colour, which is quite interesting. So I just want to preserve it as best as I can. It's time, and it's just elbow grease and effort.
Also in need of a good scrub-up are the bike's equally rusty original chrome parts. But there's one important component crying out for the skills of a fellow craftsman.
Dom.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, all right. This...
What on earth's that?
That's the front carrier off of Sue and Kath's bike.
Oh, I see.
But it's split. They made reference to them carrying themselves around on it, so...
Oh, it's sitting on it?
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
I think they've been sitting on it.
It's been overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can weld that up, no problem.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Leave it with us.
All right,
okay,
cheers.
Tim. Yeah, that's broken.
It's really quite daunting when you get a bike apart. There's so many bits and pieces, right down to the very finest ball bearing. So getting everything clean has been such a long road. Sue and Kath's bike is now ready to go back together. So first thing to go in is the front forks. It's a full suspension bicycle, so front suspension and rear suspension. So when it was built in the 60s, it was revolutionary in the cycle industry. So to be able to put it back together is quite a rewarding thing to do.
The bike may now be fit for pedalling, but Tim is slightly in the dark about its vintage lighting system.
Sue and Kath mentioned to me that they originally remembered the bike having some lights on it. So what I've managed to find for them is a period dynamo set. So we've got a rear light, we've got a front light, and we've got a little 1960s dynamo. So the next stage is to try and see if it all fits and hopefully work out all this. So, right, okay, that one. There's space. It's a bit of a rat's nest of cables and dynamos and lights and things. The dynamo is basically a little mini generator that basically powers the lights, and that little dynamo rubs on the tyre, so it's effectively a really ingenious piece of engineering, and all these cables basically feed all the electricity to the front and rear light. I'm just spinning this wheel to see if the lights work, and actually they do. You've got really, really good strong light on the front, and hopefully the rear light should be working as well. So that's the lights working. A few more little bits and pieces to fit. I've got brake cable, I've got the front carrier, and then that's ready to go back to Sue and Kath.
Next into the barn is Simon Dinsdale from Essex. He needs optics expert Richard Biggs to take a look at an item that's of monstrous significance.
How are we doing? I'm Jay.
Very well, thank you. Nice to meet you, Jay. I'm Simon.
Oh, hi, Simon.
I'm
Richard. Hi.
How do you do, Richard? Nice to meet you.
So, what have we got for us?
I've got a small pair of binoculars for you.
Wow. Now, that is small, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, tell us about these then.
Well, these binoculars belong to my father.
OK.
My father's name was Tim Dinsdale, and he's the man who filmed Nessie.
Loch Ness?
Yeah.
Oh,
He
right.
filmed the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, yeah.
But before he turned the camera on, he watched Nessie through those binoculars.
Whoa.
And it's the only clear piece of film of a large object in Loch Ness.
So what was he doing up there then, anyway?
Well, he was actually an aeronautical engineer, and he read a magazine article about Nessie.
Yeah.
And in his view, the only way to prove the existence of Nessie was to take a piece of film. And in April 1960, he went up to Loch Ness on his own. He rented a Bolex 35mm camera, and he'd sit on the side of the loch,
Yeah.
and he would monster hunt using those. He contacted the Natural History Museum and said, look, I've got a film of something in Loch Ness which you really ought to be looking at. It's been shown on telly ever since, because it is the definitive film of Nessie.
Your dad's film.
And it's my father's film. He went to Loch Ness every year and became a full-time monster hunter, so he'd live on a boat for 3 or 4 months at a time on Loch Ness.
That's dedication.
But he always carried those binoculars.
That's quality, man.
Yeah.
See, I knew Nessie was real, man.
Oh. The very first time I ever went to Loch Ness with my father was in 1967 as a 14-year-old.
Right.
And I was given custody of those binoculars for that monster hunt. That's magical.
Yeah.
That is magical.
So what's actually wrong with them next time?
The focus broke, so it just spins, so you can't focus, and they're a little bit full of dust inside. He deliberately dismantled them because by 1985 I was a police officer. I was involved in surveillance operations, and he thought, because this side still works,
right.
He thought it would be very useful for me as a surveillance policeman if I needed to look at someone with a bit of magnification, you wouldn't see me doing it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing that. You just
Exactly.
put your hand
So I
up.
could just put my hand up. And
So you've used these as well?
I've used these, yeah.
The fact it's been taken apart, it's good.
Yeah.
If that had been broken,
It's difficult.
it would mean a new shell.
They're a bit grubby and they're a bit battered, which, I mean, the battered bit is nice because that's...
You want that left?
Oh, yeah. They're battered because my dad wore them for really best part of 30 years.
If we're able to repair the binoculars, what are you going to do with them?
I'd like to go back to Loch Ness next April or thereabouts,
OK.
because that's the 60th anniversary of the film being taken, and do a bit of monster hunting with those binoculars. It's a bit of a tribute, if you like, to my father. In the monster hunting fraternity,
He's a legend, isn't he?
He's a legend, yeah.
So, thank you for
You're
bringing
welcome.
them in.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise. You
Thank
take care now.
I will. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
If my father knew that I'd come here to get those binoculars repaired, he'd be absolutely tickled pink. He never went anywhere without them. And for me to be able to use them, that gives me an even better connection with Dad. Just to be able to hold those in my hand and hopefully spot Nessie with them would be marvellous.
Now, these have spotted Nessie. Oh, that's diamond. I do like that. What have you got to do with these, then, Rich?
One eyepiece is just twisting, so that won't focus, so that's got to be secured. They've got to be cleaned because they're mucky inside. Yeah, you look through that way, you can see whether they're mucky inside. And
Oh, yeah.
now that one has got a big chip, like a shell, out of that prism. That will need a new prism. Pretty certain I've got one.
OK.
Of the same age.
Right.
Join the two halves together.
Sounds like you've got it sorted.
Yeah, I hope so.
OK. Well, if there's anything you need, I'm on you over there.
I know where you are.
All right, no problem.
Let's start getting inside. I had my first set of binoculars as a schoolboy, probably about 12. I worked weekends in the greengrocers and florists to make a bit of money. My binoculars just lived round my neck. Everyone knew that if Richard came along, he'd have his binocular with him. That prism is chipped, quite a big chip, and that will distort the image. It throws the light all over the place. It might make rainbows, flare. Without prisms, if you just had lenses and an eyepiece, the image would be upside down, so the prisms actually turn the image so that when you look through, it looks like you're actually viewing the scene. So that one has also got a chip right on the edge. It'll really do a much better job if I change them. This eyepiece is actually jammed, and that was probably why the focus lost its grip, because the 3 little grub screws lost their grip. So, yeah, I've got a bit of work to do.
Leather expert Suzie is using her in-depth knowledge of the material to reshape a century-old case that served a trailblazing female surgeon.
So now I've got this top really quite moist. You can see that it actually has some movement now, whereas before it was rock hard. I'm just going to place it on this piece of leather here just to protect it. Pop it down on the bench, and I need to apply some weight here and just let that moisture help to straighten out the fiberboard. While that's drying, I'm going to take care of the damaged side piece. This is the fiberboard, all the layers are coming apart here. So what I'm going to do is glue a piece of this fine leather up inside here. And that's going to help reinforce the card, but also reinforce the leather outer. The importance of what I'm doing here is to really put the strength back in this portion of the case top. And because it's been warped, that lid will have a bit of a memory and it will keep wanting to force this row of stitching. So it's crucial that I get this as strong as it was when it was new. I think it's rather appropriate that I'm using a scalpel to do the repair on what was the surgeon's case. Although I can only begin to imagine what great-aunt Belinda went through in her life being a surgeon all those years ago. Right, so now I've got the sides sewn together. This whole lid is a lot flatter, but there's a lot of stress going on because the actual card still wants to lift on this side. If I was to leave it like this, these corners would pop out in no time at all. So what I'm going to do is make a couple of caps to go on there. You'll often see metal ones riveted in place. But as I found, as I've worked on this case, it's really, really well made. And so I feel in keeping it as authentic as possible, I need to be sewing the caps on. And personally, I don't mind taking that extra time anyway. It's going to do a much better job. And this is going to give the lid so much strength that it's going to be able to be used on a daily basis without any risk of it splitting open again. Right, now the corners of the lid of the case are firmly sewn in place. I do, however, need to tackle the stitching on the handle of the case. And the only way I can take this handle off is to take these mounting plates off. But unfortunately, I have this block of wood the other side, and that would mean ripping out all the inside lining and everything, which I don't want to do. So that leaves me with the quandary of how am I going to sew this while it's in place? And I've actually never ever done this before. And I'm going to try and stitch double hand using curved needles. It's the only way I can see to do this. Part of the challenge is this leather being 100 years old is very dry and very hard. I mean, it really is putting up a fight, but that's the reality of working on old stuff. The threads are crossing over. It's just finding the rhythm. Forgive me, I'll get there in the end.
The end is already on the horizon for Psycho Supremo, Tim Gunn. He's almost finished his painstaking restoration of the 1960s bike that travelled the world.
Hey Tim, you okay?
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
That bike is looking fantastic. Well
Thank
done.
you. No, it's come along really, really well.
There's the luggage rack all welded up for you.
Excellent. This
Good
is
luck.
the finishing touch. Brilliant. Cheers, Dom. I've just got to tidy up a few of the bits and pieces like the cables, fit the grips, and then it's ready to go back to Kath and Sue. I'm really looking forward to seeing their faces when they see it.
When it was wheeled into the repair shop, this 1960s design classic was showing its age. After travelling from country to country with the family who loved it, the years of rust had made it unfit for riding.
I'm very excited to see the bike again, touching it, maybe getting on it, and maybe riding it.
It will be nice to ride it again. It will. As a grown-up.
Perhaps not the two of us. Perhaps just one of us.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello there. You okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hello.
Good to see you again. Hello, Dom.
Nice to see you.
Hello, Tim.
Too. Nice to see you. You okay?
Okay.
How are you both?
Very well, thank you. Very excited to see what's under there.
Are you?
Yeah.
I think we're both really excited to see what you both think of it. Come on then. Okay. You ready?
Yeah. Got rid of all the rust. Oh, it just looks fantastic. And a seat you can actually sit on. Is it new?
It's of the period, yeah. It's an old saddle.
Oh, I see. Oh, that looks fantastic. You must have worked so hard.
Magic.
Thank you. I just want to get on it and zoom away.
Should we take it outside and have a go?
Yes, please.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Yes, I do.
Tim. It's been a while since you've ridden this, is it? Yeah.
Right, here I go. Oh, brilliant.
Oh.
Riding that bike was the best fun. Really enjoyed it. Fantastic. Well, we were always thick as thieves, and we're right back there. Getting on that bike has brought back that childhood feeling again.
It's better than I imagined it would be.
Yeah.
And it's really great to have it back.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
It's all yours.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well done. That's really good.
At his bench, Richard's working on the binoculars that a much-admired dad used for Loch Ness Monster spotting. Having removed years of grime.
And there we go, a nice clean lens to go back in a minute.
He turns to easing the seized-up focus mechanism.
It's got old grease in it. It's almost as thick as putty. So I'll clean that off, put new grease in. Really don't need much. That's going in. That's quite smooth. And this is the bit you grip when you want to focus. Close-up lens. So I can actually see that little bit of dirt is actually a grub screw. That's the sort of size that I'm working with. These are so tiny. Tighten up. See if that'll go in there. Those screws are now quite tight. It was because they were loose and that the eyepiece had actually got such thick grease it had jammed that it just started spinning off. So now you can open it up and close it back down again.
Next, Richard raids his stash of vintage spare parts from unrepairable binoculars, looking for replacements for the 2 chipped prisms.
Would you believe it? That is fractionally too big. 0.5 millimetre. They should fit, there's no question. They came out of a very similar model, almost the exact same model. They should have fitted. Oh, actually, I've just seen that there's... Originally in the factory, they've pipped the sides of the metalwork. They were absolutely determined to make sure the prism was in the right place and didn't move. In fact, you can see the 2 little black marks where the pieces of metal have gripped the sides of the old prisms. Yeah, it's a bit annoying, but with optics, 0.5 millimetre makes all the difference. Ooh, here we go. Ooh, they're only about 1/4 millimetre different. Who's got their fingers crossed? Oh no, they still won't go. That's too big. Ay, ay, ay. What's that one? No, too big. It's all come down to 1/4 millimetre. In this case, I'm going to have to get out a little drill and actually scoop that metal out a bit more. Don't want it very fast. I'm going to go as gentle as possible. Right, let's see if this fits. Yes, look. That's a lot of relief. The back prisms are now fitting. They have their little springs and the cover plate. So that's all the prisms locked in place. We're almost there. And the simplest bit would seem to be to put the 2 halves of the body back together. This is the centre hinge around which the 2 halves pivot. All early binoculars were fixed, and you actually have to have your eyes measured to buy a binocular that fitted your eyes. And then some bright spark in Zeiss in Germany came up with the idea of this centre swivel way back in 1890, and it just took off from then. Now, it's smooth. It really is beginning to look like a binocular again.
Susie's charge is well on the road to recovery as she administers the finishing touches to the surgeon's case.
It's always fun when you get to this point. You think, yeah, this is almost to the end of repairing and renovating Clare's case. It's certainly the end of all the sewing I need to be doing here. But I have one area that really, really needs attention, and that's here. I've got this really bad tear in the leather. So what I think I'm going to do is fill this with a leather filler, and that I make by using lots of bits of leather dust, as I call it, and I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of glue. This leather dust is actually a byproduct of another part of the leather industry, which normally just gets thrown away. This is something I made up because I had a job that I needed to fill a hole, and I thought, well, you know, a piece of leather won't fit in there. And you think about leather is made up of all these fibres that are meshed together. That is leather. So I figured, well, if I kind of do the same thing in a paste that I can shove in the cracks, maybe that'll work. And by Jove, it did. Right, once that's dried, I can shave it down and buff it up.
This battered case once carried the surgical tools of Belinda Nesbitt, an extraordinary vanguard for women in 20th century medicine. Now her great-niece Clare has returned to see if it's been restored back to health.
The case was in a really poor condition. It was literally falling apart in my hands. So it was a last bid to try and get it restored and save the history.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, it's lovely to see you again, Claire.
Yeah, likewise.
How are you feeling?
Excited.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what you've done.
OK.
Sorry, no pressure.
Well, are you ready?
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Oh, wow. Can I touch it? Oh, look. Oh. And you, oh, so you've put these little corners on. They look like they've always been there. Wow. And the leather, how on earth? Because it was almost like it wasn't leather anymore, was it?
Right, right. A big part of the challenge was the fact that the water damage had warped it so badly. And trying to get it straight to be able to sew back together.
Yes. I just can't believe you've managed to do that the way you have. It feels so robust now, because I've never been able to carry it as a case for just years.
Yeah.
And actually, how special is that to think of my great-aunt, to think of her walking along with this to work? Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I'm just chuffed as a monkey.
Whatever that may be.
Yeah. You're very, very clever. Oh, my giddy great-aunt, I should say.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Can I give you a big hug to say thank you properly?
Thank
you so much. I'm so very grateful.
Oh, no.
I'm very lucky to have talented people like you in the world.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much, Susie.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. It feels leather again. That was the biggest surprise, because it hasn't felt like leather for a very long time. It's so brittle. And then suddenly thinking that my great-aunt would have marched off to work with that, you know, that was just really, really nice. Yeah, it feels very special.
The end is also in sight for Richard, with the binoculars used for Loch Ness Monster spotting. The fiddly optics are fixed, just 2 final flourishes to add.
What Simon didn't have was eye cups. In my box of bits, I've got a couple of rubber eye cups. It makes them so much more comfortable. And, of course, you must always have something round your neck so that when you drop them, they don't go very far. There we go. Round the neck, glasses off, up to the eyes.
For Simon, the binoculars are a precious memento, but they have taken a battering over the years. Now he's back to see if Richard has transformed them.
I'm rather excited. And it'll take me back to the first monster hunting trip to Loch Ness with my father, when he ceremoniously put them round my neck and said, "That's your responsibility, you're on lookout duty." We didn't see anything, but it didn't matter, because it meant that I got special time with my father, who was an incredible man. Hello. Nice to see you again. How are you?
Likewise. How you doing?
Hello, Jay. Nice to see you.
So how you feeling?
I'm on tenterhooks.
Oh.
Have been for some time, actually. Looking forward to this.
Right. You want to go hunting again, don't you?
I've got some monster hunting to do, yeah.
But you need something to go with you, don't you?
I do, yes. It would be a great help if I could see what I was doing.
Come on, take it off.
You want me to show him, yeah?
Yeah,
Come on in. Oh, look at that. You did it. Can I pick them up?
Yeah, they're yours.
Oh, geez, look at that. Now that you've put the eyepieces on, I remember them now. That is fantastic.
How do they feel?
Oh, they feel great. Excuse me a minute. Let's put them over my shoulder. That's how they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Pop on the top shelf, right next to the star there.
Yeah.
Have a look over there. Tell me if you can see something next to that jar.
What jar?
See the star? And then the top shelf, there's a jar there.
Oh, you mean the hedgehog?
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, they work. That's brilliant, and they both focus. That is fantastic. I can't thank you enough. That is absolutely fabulous.
It's been fun.
I couldn't be happier. Absolutely. Brilliant.
Thank
well
you,
done,
Tom.
chaps. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You take care, sir.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
It's totally made up, isn't it?
Yep.
Hey, it's like a little kid again.
They look like the pair of binoculars that my dad used to carry. He used to be inseparable from them, to be able to look through them and to focus them properly and use them as a proper pair of binoculars. That's just, you know, that's ticked all the boxes. They're an integral part of the family history, if you like, and the story of the hunt for Nessie. They've exceeded my expectations. It's terrific. Even the little cord is fabulous.